God's chosen ones. Stop chasing jobs. Step into your higher calling, wisdom, motivation. Are you tired of pretending your soul doesn't scream every Monday morning? Are you exhausted from forcing yourself into spaces that feel like spiritual suffocation? Have you ever wondered why success feels like betrayal when everyone else calls it victory? Stop, breathe, listen. You didn't stumble upon this message by accident. This isn't your algorithm serving you content. This is a divine summons. Heaven has been watching you fake smile through another performance review, watching you die a little more each day in a cubicle that was never meant to contain what God placed inside you. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You were never meant to chase jobs. Jobs were meant to chase you. You've walked into rooms full of people, boardrooms, break rooms, family gatherings, and still felt completely, utterly alone. That wasn't antisocial behavior. That was your spirit, recognizing you're in the wrong kingdom. You've been trying to plant an oak tree in concrete and wondering why it won't grow. What if everything you were taught about work, success, and identity was a lie designed to keep you small? What if that restless ache in your chest isn't depression, it's your calling trying to break free from a cage you didn't even know you built? Listen to what God whispered to Jeremiah before time began. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Not after you got the degree, not after you climbed the ladder. Before you took your first breath, you were already assigned to something greater than a paycheck. You are not a cog in the machine. You are a compass in God's hand, and He's been trying to point you toward your true north while you've been chasing magnetic interference. That job that rejected you, divine redirection. That promotion that went to someone else, sacred protection. That company that laid you off, God breaking the chains you were too afraid to break yourself. Before we go deeper into what your soul has been trying to tell you, I want to pause and say thank you to every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead. If you feel this truth reverberating in your bones right now, if something ancient is stirring awake inside you, type 777 in the comments. Don't just tap it, declare it. That's not a number, chosen one. That's your yes to the calling that's been waiting for your surrender. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every limitation you've accepted about what your life could be. How many years have you sat in meetings, nodding along, while your soul screamed in silent rebellion? How many times have you forced yourself to care about quarterly reports when your heart was crying out for eternal purpose? How long have you been medicating that deep, gnawing emptiness with Netflix, social media, and weekend distractions, pretending it's normal to feel dead inside from Monday to Friday? Listen to me, dear one. That restlessness you've carried for decades, that's not depression, that's not ingratitude, that's not laziness. That's divine dissatisfaction. You see, there's a secret the world doesn't want you to know. God plants a holy restlessness in the hearts of His chosen ones. It's designed to make you uncomfortable in the wrong places. It's meant to create friction when you try to squeeze your eagle wings into sparrow cages. You've been trying to diagnose what was actually your spiritual GPS, pointing you toward your true destination. Think about Moses, 40 years old, living in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by luxury and power. He had everything the world said would make him happy, but something inside him wouldn't let him rest. Something made him walk away from the only life he'd ever known. The palace felt like a prison because his spirit knew he was made for something greater than Egyptian gold and political games. You know that feeling, don't you? You've sat in corner offices and felt claustrophobic. You've earned promotions and felt hollow. You've cashed paychecks and wondered if this is all there is to life. That wasn't ingratitude. That was God. Joseph spent 13 years in exile and prison. 13 years. Can you imagine telling yourself for 13 years that maybe you heard God wrong? Maybe those dreams were just wishful thinking. Maybe you should just settle for being a good slave, a model prisoner, a perfect employee who never rocks the boat. But here's what Joseph discovered in that dungeon. God doesn't waste wilderness seasons. Every rejection was preparation. Every setback was setup. Every closed door was God protecting him from settling for less than his destiny. What you've been calling failure was actually divine resistance. You were never meant to fit in. Remember Elijah, the mighty prophet who called down fire from heaven, who outran chariots, who spoke truth to kings. Even he reached a breaking point. 1 Kings 19 tells us he ran into a cave, exhausted, burned out, ready to quit. He told God, "I've had enough. Take my life." But God didn't rebuke him. God didn't tell him to toughen up, work harder, be more grateful. Instead, God whispered, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" Not, "Why are you here?" but, "What are you doing here?" Because sometimes the cave isn't where you go to hide. Sometimes the cave is where God takes you to reveal what you're really made for. You've thought it was laziness when you couldn't muster enthusiasm for that promotion. But what if it was discernment? What if your spirit was protecting you from climbing a ladder leaning against the wrong wall? You've called it failure when opportunities passed you by. But what if it was divine intervention? What if God was closing doors because he had something better waiting behind a door you couldn't even see yet? You're a violin tuned for heaven's sound, but the world has been trying to make you play a different song. No wonder you felt out of tune. No wonder every performance felt forced, every note fell flat. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because this will change everything. That ache in your chest isn't mental illness, it's spiritual intelligence. Your soul recognizing that you were designed for more than corporate climbing and suburban settling. The burnout you've experienced, that wasn't weakness. That was your spirit saying, "This isn't it. This isn't what we came here for." The restlessness that keeps you up at night, that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Your spirit knows something your mind hasn't figured out yet. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says God has set eternity in the human heart. Eternity. Not quarterly bonuses, not annual reviews, not retirement plans. Eternity. That's why nothing temporal satisfies you for long. That's why you keep feeling like there has to be more. Because there is more. For decades, you've been trying to fit into a system that was never designed for you. You've been answering help-wanted ads when God has been trying to place a divine assignment in your hands. You've been networking when you should have been praying. You've been climbing when you should have been kneeling. And now, in this season of your life, when others are talking about slowing down, God is saying, now you're ready to speed up into your real purpose. The exhaustion you feel isn't from age, it's from fighting your calling. The depression isn't from circumstances, it's from suppressing your true assignment. But what if I told you that every frustration, every disappointment, every career dead end has been preparing you for the one thing you were actually created to do? What if your whole professional life has been graduate school for your divine assignment? What if the reason nothing has fully satisfied you is because you were never meant to be satisfied with anything less than walking in the fullness of who God created you to be? The question isn't whether you're too old to start over. The question is, are you finally ready to start right? Chosen one, we've reached the moment where everything changes, where the whisper becomes a roar, where the ache transforms into awakening. You've been living in the wrong economy. While the world taught you to chase paychecks, God has been writing checks with your name on them in the bank of heaven. While you've been updating your LinkedIn profile, heaven has been updating your eternal assignment. Listen to the thunder of truth from Jeremiah 1-5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Before you had a resume, you had a scroll in heaven. Before you had a job title, you had a divine calling carved in stone by the finger of God himself. But here's what will shake you to your core. That scroll isn't gathering dust, it's burning with urgency. Every day you spend in the wrong lane, heaven is watching potential go to waste. Every morning you drag yourself to a job that drains your soul. Angels are weeping over squandered purpose. The world's economy says work until you're 65, then fade into irrelevance. God's economy says your greatest impact comes when you finally stop performing for people and start partnering with purpose. The world says your value decreases with age. God says your wisdom increases with every scar, every lesson, every season of waiting. Let me tell you about Margaret, an 82-year-old widow from Ohio. For 40 years, she worked as a bank teller, counting other people's money while her own calling sat dormant. When her husband died, everyone expected her to retreat into quiet retirement. Instead, she heard God whisper. Now, she started a ministry feeding homeless veterans, turning her small pension into a movement that now serves 3 cities. At 82, she wasn't retiring, she was igniting. Margaret understood what most miss. Retirement isn't about stopping, it's about starting what you were truly meant to do. But you don't have to wait until 82. You don't have to wait until tomorrow. The divine disruption is happening now, in this moment, as these words pierce through the fog of conformity that's been suffocating your spirit. Proverbs 19:21 declares with earthquake force, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." Your plans have been getting in the way of His purpose. Your career has been blocking your calling. Your salary has been sabotaging your significance. Something has been sleeping in you, and it's about to wake up. Can you feel it stirring? That restless energy that no vacation can satisfy. That hunger that no promotion can feed. That's not midlife crisis, that's divine activation. Your spirit has been in hibernation, and God is about to shake you awake with such force that you'll wonder how you ever survived sleeping. The enemy convinced you that your best years were behind you. That lie ends today. Your best years aren't behind you, they're about to begin. Not because of what you've accomplished, but because of what God is about to accomplish through you. You weren't called to retire, you were called to ignite. Every gray hair is a medal of wisdom. Every wrinkle is a map of experience. Every season of pain was preparation for this season of power. The world sees your age as a liability. God sees it as your greatest asset. If you've been waiting for permission to step into something greater, if you've been holding back because you thought you missed your window, if you've been silencing the voice that whispers, "There's more," this is it. This is your permission slip signed by the King of Kings. Say yes out loud, right where you're sitting. Say it with the force of 40 years of suppressed dreams. Say it like your life depends on it, because it does. The clock isn't running out on your purpose. The clock is just beginning to tick toward your divine appointment. Every heartbeat is heaven's countdown to your moment of ignition. Every breath is God investing oxygen into the fire He's about to kindle in your soul. But here's the terrifying truth. This moment won't last forever. Divine windows open, but they also close. The invitation is in your hands, but it comes with an expiration date. Not because God changes His mind, but because your willingness to answer has seasons. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation. Abraham was 100 when he became a father. Sarah was 90 when she laughed at impossibility and then lived it. Age wasn't their disqualification, it was their distinction. You are standing at the edge of your Red Sea moment. Behind you is everything familiar, safe, predictable. In front of you are waters that look impossible to cross. But God isn't asking you to walk around the sea. He's asking you to walk through it. The question that will define the rest of your life is simple. Will you step into the waters, or will you die in the wilderness of what was? Will you trust the God who parted seas, or will you trust the voice that says it's too late? Because, chosen one, what's about to happen next will either confirm your calling or expose your excuses. What's about to be revealed will either activate your assignment or reveal why you've been running from it. Chosen one, let me tell you something that might sting at first, but will heal you forever. The very thing that makes you chosen is the same thing that makes you misunderstood. And if you've spent years wondering why you don't fit, why people look at you sideways, why your own family questions your choices, congratulations. You're in biblical company. You see, when God marks someone for greatness, the world marks them as different, and different scares people. It threatens their comfort zones. It exposes their own unwillingness to answer the call. They called David unstable when he left his sheep to face Goliath. They whispered behind Esther's back when she approached the king uninvited. They branded Paul a traitor when he abandoned his prestigious career to follow Christ. Sound familiar? How many times have they called you flaky because you couldn't stay in jobs that suffocated your spirit? How many times have they labeled you unrealistic because you dared to dream beyond their limited vision? How many family dinners have you endured where someone said, "When are you going to get serious about life?" Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What if their rejection was actually God's protection? Here's what nobody tells you about being chosen: you will be misunderstood by the very people who should understand you most. Your own tribe will question your sanity. Your closest friends will doubt your decisions. And here's the part that cuts deepest. Sometimes you'll start believing them. But listen to me carefully. Every prophet, every chosen vessel, every world changer in Scripture walked this exact path. They were called crazy before they were called chosen. They were rejected before they were received. They were hidden before they were revealed. Jesus himself was misunderstood for 30 years. 30 years. The Son of God worked as a carpenter while his divine calling waited in silence. His own brothers didn't believe in him. His neighbors questioned him. "Isn't this just Mary's boy?" they asked. Think about that. If Jesus waited 30 years for his moment, what makes you think your season of hiddenness is wasted time? You've been measuring your life by the world's timeline, but God operates on eternity's clock. While everyone else was climbing corporate ladders, you were being planted in the soil of obscurity. While they were networking their way to the top, you were being rooted in the depths where real strength grows. That job you lost last year, that wasn't failure, that was freedom. That business that didn't work out, that wasn't rejection, that was redirection. Those people who stopped believing in you, they weren't your people anyway. Here's the truth that will shatter every lie you've believed about yourself. You haven't been behind, you've been becoming. Seeds don't apologize for spending time in the dark. They don't explain themselves to the gardener. They just do what seeds do. They surrender to the process, trust the planting, and when the time is right, they break through the soil with unstoppable force. You think you've been buried, but God says you've been planted. There's a massive difference. Buried things decay, planted things grow. Buried things disappear, planted things multiply. That restlessness you feel, that's not anxiety, that's anticipation. That's your spirit sensing that breakthrough season is closer than you think. That discomfort with ordinary, that's divine dissatisfaction pushing you toward extraordinary. Every criticism you've endured was preparation for the platform you're about to receive. Every door that closed was God protecting you from settling for less than His best. Every season of waiting was Him strengthening your roots for the weight of the fruit you're about to bear. Paul spent 3 years in the wilderness after his Damascus Road experience. Moses spent 40 years in the desert before leading Israel. Joseph spent years in prison before ruling Egypt. Your waiting hasn't been wasted, it's been strategic. Stop apologizing for not fitting into their boxes. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to build your own. Stop explaining your journey to people who can't see past their own limitations. Stop seeking validation from those who are afraid of their own calling. The same people who question you today will celebrate you tomorrow. The same voices that called you unrealistic will call you prophetic. The same folks who said you'd never make it will ask how you did it. But here's what you need to understand right now, in this moment. Their opinion of you is not God's opinion of you. Their timeline is not His timeline. Their understanding is not His understanding. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. You've been living under the pressure of human expectations when you were designed for divine appointments. You've been trying to explain yourself to people who weren't meant to understand your assignment. But your season of hiddenness is ending. Can you feel it? That stirring in your spirit, that quickening in your heart. That's not wishful thinking, that's prophetic sensing. Something is shifting in the heavenlies, and your breakthrough is beginning to break through. Say this out loud right now, wherever you are. I am not behind. I am becoming. Say it again with more conviction. I am not behind. I am becoming. One more time, until you feel it in your bones. I am not behind. I am becoming. But here's the question that will determine everything. Now that you know you've been planted, not buried, now that you understand your hiddenness had purpose, what are you going to do with this revelation? Chosen one, everything is about to shift. Right here, right now, because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every ceiling you've accepted over your life. You've been asking the wrong question your entire career. You've been saying, God, give me a job, when He's been whispering, child, I already gave you a key. Not a key to someone else's door. Not a key to climb someone else's ladder. A key to unlock realms that have been waiting for your arrival since before the foundation of the world. Look at Nehemiah. History remembers him as the man who rebuilt Jerusalem's walls, but that's not how his story started. He was a cupbearer, a servant who tasted wine before it reached the king's lips. Day after day, year after year, he stood in the shadows while others made decisions that shaped nations. Sound familiar? But here's what will stop your heart. God wasn't preparing Nehemiah for promotion within the palace. He was preparing him to abandon the palace entirely. The skills he learned serving wine, they became the foundation for serving purpose. The favor he gained with authority, it became the gateway to his own divine authority. One day, Nehemiah received news that Jerusalem's walls were broken down, its gates burned with fire, and something inside him snapped. Not anger, recognition. He realized he'd been positioned not to serve the king forever, but to serve the King of Kings for a season that would echo through eternity. What news about your people, your community, your calling has been breaking your heart lately? What broken walls have you been seeing that make you weep behind closed doors? That's not burden, beloved. That's assignment calling. The moment Nehemiah said yes to God's calling, everything changed. The same king who had employed him became the one who endorsed him. The same palace that had contained him became the launching pad that resourced him. The same skills that had made him valuable in servitude made him unstoppable in purpose. But here's the part that will revolutionize your understanding of identity. Nehemiah didn't just build walls, he built them in 52 days. 2 days to accomplish what should have taken years. Why? Because when you step into divine assignment, you don't work in human timelines anymore. You work in heaven's acceleration zone. Listen to what Paul declares in Ephesians 2:10. For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Did you catch that? God prepared works in advance. Before you were born, He was already designing assignments that would perfectly fit the fingerprint of your soul. You weren't created to fill someone else's vision. You were created to birth God's vision through your unique spiritual DNA. Every skill you've developed, every connection you've made, every door that's opened and closed has been orchestrating this moment when you finally realize the truth. Your gift isn't just for you, it's a doorway through which heaven touches earth. Every time you use what God placed inside you, you're not just succeeding. You're creating an access point for divine intervention in a broken world. Stop for a moment. Feel that stirring in your chest. That's not excitement. That's recognition. Your spirit is remembering what your mind forgot. You are not an employee in God's kingdom. You are an ambassador. You are not a worker in His field. You are a co-heir to His throne. The job you've been chasing, it was never the destination. It was the training ground. The skills you thought were for someone else's dream, they were preparation for your own divine assignment. The favor you've been building, it wasn't to climb their ladder. It was to build your own bridge. This is your Nehemiah moment, chosen one. The walls of your calling are broken down, and God is asking, will you rebuild? Not with someone else's blueprint, not on someone else's timeline, with the authority I've placed in your hands and the urgency I've written on your heart. The same God who gave David a sling is giving you a strategy. The same God who gave Moses a staff is giving you a strength. The same God who gave Esther access to the king is giving you access to resources you didn't even know existed. Stand up right now. Place your hands on your heart. Feel that beating. That's not just circulation. That's divine rhythm calling you into alignment. Say these words out loud. I receive the mantle. I accept the assignment. I step into the calling that has been waiting for my yes. You never fit in because you were never meant to. You were meant to be the blueprint, not a copy of someone else's success, but the original design for a work that only you can complete. The ache you've carried all your life? It wasn't longing for a better job. It was homesickness for a calling you've never fully embraced. But today, that changes. Today, you stop chasing what was never yours and start building what has always been waiting. Because, chosen one, your assignment isn't coming, it's here. And the world has been holding its breath, waiting for you to finally say yes. Chosen one, let me ask you something that's going to shake the foundation of everything you've believed about money, provision, and God's heart toward your financial future. How many years have you spent believing that struggling financially was somehow spiritual? How long have you carried the lie that poverty was pious, that barely making ends meet was proof of your humility before God? Stop right there. That's not the gospel. That's guilt wrapped in religious clothing. Here's what the prosperity preachers got wrong, and what the poverty preachers got even more wrong. God doesn't want you rich because you're greedy, and He doesn't want you poor because you're holy. He wants you financially free because you have work to do, and that work requires resources. Listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Notice He didn't say some things. He said all things. Every provision, every need, every resource required for the assignment He's placed on your life. You've been chasing crumbs under tables that were never meant for you, while heaven has been baking a feast with your name written on the invitation. Here's the revelation that's going to change everything. God funds assignment, not ambition. He doesn't care about your retirement portfolio. He cares about your kingdom purpose. The moment you step out of the rat race and into His divine economy, provision starts flowing from directions you never even imagined. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 68-year-old retired teacher from Buffalo who attended one of our gatherings last year. For 43 years, she scraped by on a teacher's salary, worried sick about her pension, watching every penny. Then at 67, she heard God whisper something that terrified her. Start the ministry you've been running from. She thought she was too old, too broke, too late. But when she finally said yes to teaching financial literacy from a biblical perspective in her community, something supernatural happened. Within 6 months, donations started arriving from strangers. A publishing company offered her a book deal. Her monthly income tripled, not from working harder, but from working in alignment. Margaret discovered what Moses wrote in Deuteronomy 28:12. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouse of His bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. Did you catch that? God has a storehouse, not a piggy bank, not a savings account, a storehouse. And it's filled with resources earmarked specifically for your calling. But here's where most people miss it completely. They think God's provision comes through their employer, their pension, their 401k, their social security check. Those aren't your sources, those are just delivery systems. Your source is heaven itself. When you're operating in God's economy, money becomes a tool, not a master. Resources flow toward you because heaven recognizes you're not hoarding, you're distributing. You're not accumulating for yourself, you're stewarding for the kingdom. This is why the enemy has worked so hard to keep you trapped in jobs that drain your soul and paychecks that barely cover your bills. Because broke people can't fund revival, exhausted people can't lead movements. People worried about next month's rent can't take the risks that change the world. But listen to me carefully. This isn't about name it and claim it nonsense. This isn't about demanding God give you a mansion because you quoted a verse. This is about aligning yourself so completely with His purposes that His resources become available for His work through your hands. When you stop chasing money and start chasing mission, money starts chasing you. When you stop begging God for provision and start asking Him for assignment, provision becomes automatic. I've watched this happen over and over again. People who spent decades struggling financially suddenly find themselves with more than enough the moment they surrender their plans for His purpose. Not because they worked harder, because they worked differently. Not because they got lucky, because they got aligned. The world operates on scarcity. Fight for position, hoard resources, compete for crumbs. But God's kingdom operates on abundance. There's enough. There's always been enough. The question isn't whether God can provide. The question is whether you're positioned to receive. And positioning yourself means something radical. It means you stop measuring your worth by your bank account and start measuring it by your obedience. It means you stop asking, "How much will this cost?" and start asking, "What is God calling me to do?" It means you stop planning your purpose around your pension and start trusting that your provision will follow your purpose. Margaret didn't wait until she had money to start her ministry. She started her ministry and watched money appear. She didn't wait until she felt financially secure to step into her calling. She stepped into her calling and discovered that in God's economy, security comes from surrender, not savings. Right now, some of you are thinking this sounds too good to be true. You're calculating in your head, wondering how this could possibly work with your current situation, your fixed income, your limited resources. But what if your limited resources aren't the problem? What if your limited thinking is? The same God who fed 5,000 people with a boy's lunch is still operating today. The same God who made oil multiply in a widow's jar until her debts were paid is still in the miracle business. The same God who told Solomon to ask for anything and then blessed him beyond measure is still looking for people audacious enough to believe His promises. You are not too old to step into supernatural provision. You are not too broke to begin something significant. You are not too late to discover that God's economy doesn't follow Wall Street rules, it follows heaven's principles. So here's what I need you to do right now. Don't just think it, speak it aloud. I walk in God's economy. I lack nothing in my calling. Say it again, louder this time. Let heaven hear your declaration. Because the moment you make that shift from scarcity thinking to kingdom thinking, everything changes. And what changes next will transform not just your finances, but your entire understanding of who you were created to be. Are you ready to stop living like an orphan when you're actually an heir? Beloved, I need you to stop right here and breathe with me, because what I'm about to say is going to cut through decades of lies you've been told about your life, your age, and your purpose. You've been carrying shame like a backpack full of stones, haven't you? Shame about the years you think you wasted. Shame about the dreams you buried. Shame about starting over when everyone else seems settled. But chosen one, that shame is not from God, it's from the enemy, who knows exactly what you're capable of when you finally wake up. Listen to me carefully. You have not missed your moment. You have not passed your expiration date. You are not too old, too late, or too tired for what God has planned. The devil has been feeding you a steady diet of regret, whispering that your best days are behind you. He's been showing you highlight reels of people half your age, making you feel like you're watching life from the sidelines. But what if I told you that everything you've experienced, every failure, every heartbreak, every wrong turn, was actually preparation for this exact moment? What the enemy tried to bury with age, God is raising with fire. You think your gray hair disqualifies you. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead a nation out of bondage. You think your past mistakes count you out? David committed adultery and murder, yet God called him a man after His own heart. You think you've waited too long? Abraham was 100 when he became the father of nations. God doesn't operate on retirement schedules. He operates on resurrection power. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a stirring in your spirit. You feel it, don't you? That ancient hunger awakening after years of sleep. That's not nostalgia, dear one. That's prophecy. That's your DNA remembering what it was created for. The world told you to settle down, slow down, wind down. But God is saying rise up, wake up, fire up. Because while you've been apologizing for taking up space, heaven has been preparing space for you to take. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. Jeremiah 29:11. Did you catch that? A future. Not just a past to reminisce about, but a future to step boldly into. You've been living in survival mode for so long that you forgot you were designed for supernatural assignment. You've been managing instead of commanding, enduring instead of overcoming, existing instead of exploding with purpose. But God is performing spiritual surgery on you right now. He's cutting away the scar tissue of disappointment. He's removing the tumor of what if that's been eating at your soul. He's transplanting new vision where cataracts of doubt had clouded your sight. Can you feel it happening? That warmth spreading through your chest? That's not emotion, that's activation. That's the Holy Spirit breathing life back into dreams you thought were dead and buried. The enemy convinced you that your struggles were signs of failure, but they were actually signs of selection. Every mountain you climbed built stamina for what's ahead. Every valley you walked through taught you navigation for others who will follow. Every storm you weathered proved you're built to last. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are a veteran of spiritual warfare. And veterans don't retire, they graduate to higher ranks of authority. Look at your hands right now. Really look at them. Those aren't just hands that have worked jobs and changed diapers and wiped tears. Those are anointed hands. Hands that God has been preparing for assignments you haven't even imagined yet. Hands that will bless, heal, create, and build in ways that will shock you with their power. Your appointment was never cancelled. It was just delayed until you were ready to handle what comes with it. Because what God is about to release through you requires the depth that only comes from decades of life, the wisdom that only comes from experience, and the fearlessness that only comes from having nothing left to lose. Even to your old age and grey hairs, I am He who will sustain you. I have made you, and I will carry you. I will sustain you, and I will rescue you. Isaiah 46:4. You haven't missed it, chosen one. Your appointment has just arrived. Right now, in this sacred moment, God is calling you out of the wilderness of wasted years and into the promised land of purpose. He's calling you out of the cave of regret and into the mountain of revelation. He's calling you out of the graveyard of dead dreams and into the resurrection power of divine destiny. The anointing that's been dormant in you is about to break forth like a geyser that's been building pressure for decades. When it erupts, it won't just change your life, it will change the atmosphere around you. Your family will feel it. Your community will witness it. And a generation will be marked by the fire that comes out of you. If you're ready to stop apologizing for your age and start celebrating your assignment, if you're ready to exchange your retirement plans for resurrection power, if you're ready to let God activate what He's been preparing in secret, drop these words in the comments right now. Activate me, Lord. Because the world is about to see what happens when God's chosen ones stop chasing jobs and start walking in their higher calling. Chosen one, let me tell you something your grandmother never had the courage to say out loud. The exhaustion you feel isn't just from your job. It's from carrying 3 generations of unfulfilled dreams on your shoulders. You think you're just tired from another day at the office. You're tired from fighting a war that started before you were born. Your great-grandfather swallowed his calling to become a preacher because the bills needed paying. Your grandmother buried her gift of healing because proper ladies don't claim such things. Your father traded his passion for painting for a pension because artists don't eat. And now here you are, suffocating in a career that feels like a tomb, wondering why you can't breathe. This isn't your failure. This is generational warfare. Every time you apply for another soul-crushing position, you're not just betraying yourself. You're continuing a bloodline pattern of spiritual surrender that has been choking your family tree for decades. The enemy doesn't just attack you, he studies your lineage. He knows exactly which lies worked on your ancestors, and he's been recycling them like a broken record. Be practical. Dreams don't pay bills. God helps those who help themselves by getting a steady job. Those aren't wisdom. Those are generational curses disguised as common sense. But here's what the devil didn't count on. You. Right here, right now, listening to these words with fire rising in your chest. You weren't born to repeat the pain, chosen one. You were born to redeem it. Romans 8:19 declares something so powerful it should shake the foundations of every corporate building in America. The creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. Did you catch that? The world isn't waiting for more employees. It's waiting for the sons and daughters of the Most High to step into their divine assignments. Creation itself is groaning, holding its breath, waiting for you to remember who you are. Your ancestors couldn't break free because they didn't have what you have. They didn't have the revelation. They didn't have the spiritual warfare training. They didn't have the prophetic voices speaking truth into their generation. But you do. You are the dam holding back generations of floodwaters, decades of suppressed callings, buried gifts, silenced voices. But God isn't asking you to hold back the water forever. He's turning the dam into a river. He's transforming the pressure into power. Think about Moses, 80 years old, stuttering, convinced he was washed up, standing in front of a burning bush trying to negotiate his way out of destiny. Send someone else, God. I'm not qualified. I'm not ready. I'm too old. But God didn't call Moses despite his age. He called him because of it. Every year of waiting, every season of preparation, every moment of what felt like delay was actually divine positioning. You think you're too old to start over? Moses was 80 when he started his real career. Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 78 and became one of America's most celebrated artists. Colonel Sanders was 65 when he franchised KFC. Your expiration date is not determined by your birthday, it's determined by your obedience. But here's where it gets personal. Every day you stay in that job that's killing your spirit, you're not just hurting yourself. You're teaching your children that dreams die when rent is due. You're showing your grandchildren that God's calling comes second to man's approval. You're passing down the same spiritual cowardice that crippled the generations before you. Is that the legacy you want to leave? Or do you want to be the one who finally says, enough? The pattern of settling stops here. The tradition of spiritual compromise dies with me. Because that's exactly what you are, chosen one. You're the pattern interrupter. You're the generational curse breaker. You're the one who stands up in the middle of a family reunion of underachievers and declares, I was not created to clock in and clock out until I die. The wounds your ancestors carried, the fear of not having enough, the terror of stepping out in faith, the belief that God's calling is too dangerous to trust, those wounds have been talking through your mouth every time you choose security over obedience. But wounds that aren't healed become weapons in the hands of the enemy, and he's been using your family's unhealed trauma to keep you trapped in cycles of spiritual mediocrity. But what if I told you that those same wounds, when surrendered to God, become wells of wisdom? What if the very thing that held your family back becomes the breakthrough that sets them free? Joseph's brothers sold him into slavery, but God used that betrayal to position him as Prime Minister of Egypt. David was rejected by his own father, but that rejection prepared him to be king. Your family's pattern of playing it safe might feel like a curse, but God is about to transform it into your calling to help other people break free from the prison of practical. You are standing at a crossroads that will echo through eternity. To your left is the well-worn path of generational compromise, the same road your family has walked for decades. Safe, predictable, soul-crushing. To your right is the narrow path that leads to life-dangerous, uncertain, but drenched in divine purpose. Which way will you choose? And before you answer, remember this. Your grandchildren are watching from the future, waiting to see if you'll be the one who finally breaks the chains or the one who hands them the key to their own prison. The war within the wound ends now, but will you choose to be the victor or the casualty? Chosen one, I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. You haven't been living your life. You've been living someone else's script. For decades, maybe your entire adult life, you've been sleepwalking through a nightmare disguised as the American dream. They told you to get good grades, go to college, climb the corporate ladder. They said success meant a steady paycheck, a 401k, and a gold watch after 40 years of faithful service. But here's what they never told you: that system was designed to put your spirit in a coma. Every morning, alarm clock that jolted you awake was drowning out the voice of God trying to wake you up to your real purpose. Every performance review that made you feel small was a spiritual assassination attempt on the giant God placed inside you. Every time you said, "Thank God it's Friday," you were confessing that 5/7 of your life felt like prison. This isn't about being ungrateful. This is about recognizing a spiritual crime that's been committed against your soul. Satan's greatest weapon has never been destruction, it's distraction. He doesn't need to kill you if he can keep you busy dying slowly in a cubicle. He doesn't need to steal your gifts if he can convince you they're not valuable enough to quit your day job. The enemy's masterpiece isn't addiction, depression, or even rebellion. It's getting God's chosen ones to voluntarily sleepwalk through their calling while believing they're being responsible. You've been drugged, chosen one, not with substances, but with routine, numbed with Netflix after another soul-crushing day, medicated with shopping, social media, anything to quiet the voice in your spirit that keeps whispering, "This isn't what I created you for." But here's where it gets diabolical. The system didn't just steal your time, it stole your memory. It convinced you that the dreams you had as a child were foolish, that the visions you received in prayer were unrealistic, that the gifts flowing through you were hobbies, not callings. The enemy didn't attack your history, he attacked your memory. Because if you ever remembered who you were before the world told you who you should be, the entire system would tremble. Remember Gideon. This mighty man of God was hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat in secret, terrified of his enemies. He had completely forgotten his identity, his strength, his calling. But when the angel found him in that place of fear and limitation, what did he say? "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon looked around, probably thinking, "Mighty warrior? Me? I'm the least in my family, from the weakest tribe." But God wasn't calling him what he appeared to be. God was calling him what he already was in heaven's reality. Right now, as you listen to these words, God is looking at you the same way. Not at your current job title, not at your current bank account, not at your current circumstances. He's seeing the mighty warrior who's been hiding in the winepress of practical decisions and financial security. You've been told for so long that following God's call is risky, irresponsible, foolish. But what if staying where you are is the real risk? What if playing it safe is the most dangerous game you could play with your soul? Here's the truth that will set you free. You are not behind. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are not unqualified. You are awakening. Right now, in this moment, spiritual amnesia is being broken over your life. That restlessness you feel on Sunday nights, that's your spirit rejecting another week of spiritual sedation. That ache when you watch someone else living their dream, that's recognition, not jealousy. You're remembering something your soul never forgot. The alarm is going off in the spirit, chosen one. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Every cell in your body, every fiber of your being is vibrating with the frequency of your true calling. You can feel it, can't you? That electricity running through your veins as these words hit your spirit. This is your moment of awakening. This is your personal resurrection morning. The stone is being rolled away from the tomb where your dreams have been buried under decades of realistic expectations. You've been sleepwalking in a dream planted by fear. But the dream is ending. Reality is breaking through. And reality is this: you were never meant to fit into their system because you were designed to build God's kingdom. The voice you've been hearing in the quiet moments, the one that whispers about writing that book, starting that ministry, launching that business, helping those people, that's not your imagination. That's your Creator, reminding you why He sent you here. If you know you've been distracted for years, if you can feel the fog lifting from your mind right now, type "Wake me up" in the comments. Let's declare war on spiritual amnesia. Let your fingers on that keyboard be your first act of rebellion against the system that tried to make you forget. Because what you're about to discover next will show you exactly how to step out of their matrix and into your ministry. Chosen one, you've been carrying something that was never meant to be a burden. You've been dragging chains that Christ already broke 2,000 years ago. And tonight, right here in this sacred moment, God is whispering the most dangerous prayer you'll ever hear. What if your pain isn't your punishment, but your preparation? Look at your hands right now. Go ahead, look at them. Those same hands that have signed resignation letters, wiped tears in bathroom stalls, and clutched steering wheels while screaming at heaven. Those hands are about to discover something that will shatter everything you thought you knew about suffering. In Psalm 23:5, David declares something that should make your spirit tremble. "You anoint my head with oil in the presence of my enemies, not after the battle, not when the coast is clear." Right there, surrounded by everything that tried to destroy him, God poured oil over his head like a king. But here's what they never taught you in Sunday school. That oil, it came from olives that were crushed, pressed until they bled their essence, broken until they became something precious. What if I told you that your breakdown was actually your breakthrough in disguise? 3 weeks ago, I received a letter that will haunt me forever. A woman named Margaret, 73 years old, wrote these words: "Pastor, for 60 years I carried shame that wasn't even mine. My stepfather stole my childhood, and I spent 7 decades believing I was damaged goods." Margaret had applied for over 200 jobs in her lifetime, rejected from most, fired from others. She couldn't understand why nothing ever stuck, why every workplace felt like walking through quicksand. She thought she was unemployable. But God had a different plan. At 73, Margaret did something that defied every therapeutic manual, every self-help book, every well-meaning friend's advice. She walked into her stepfather's nursing home, the man who had destroyed her innocence, and she forgave him, face to face, with witnesses. "I watched him shrink," she wrote, "not with shame, but with relief. I realized I wasn't the only one carrying that burden." That day, something broke open in Margaret's spirit. Not broke down, broke open. Like an olive under divine pressure, she began to pour out oil she never knew she possessed. Within 6 months, Margaret launched a ministry for elderly women who had been silenced by abuse. Her pain became her platform. Her wounds became her weapons against the enemy's lies. She didn't get hired by a company. She became a company, a movement, a revolution, wrapped in grey hair and reading glasses. But here's the part that will wreck you. Margaret told me the secret wasn't in forgiving her abuser. The secret was in forgiving herself for believing she was broken. God won't waste what you surrender, but He can't anoint what you still hide. Right now, someone listening to these words is holding something you've never brought to anyone. Not your pastor, not your therapist, not your spouse, not even God. You've been carrying it like radioactive material, convinced that if anyone saw it, they'd never look at you the same way. But what if that very thing, that shame, that failure, that secret that makes you want to crawl under a rock, what if that's the oil waiting to anoint your calling? Stop for a moment. Feel that tightness in your chest. That's not anxiety, that's recognition. Your spirit knows I'm talking directly to you right now. You've been asking God for opportunities while hiding the very experiences that qualify you for your assignment. You've been praying for promotion while burying the testimony that would make you powerful. Listen to me carefully. Your mess is not disqualifying you from ministry. Your mess is your ministry. The enemy convinced you that your past makes you unfit for purpose, but God whispers something different. Your past makes you perfectly positioned for power. What if the ashes in your life aren't evidence of destruction? What if they're altar dust, a place where glory can rest? Think about it. Every Old Testament sacrifice required fire. Every offering demanded burning. Every altar was built on ground that had been broken, prepared, consecrated through destruction. Your depression, altar dust. Your divorce, altar dust. Your bankruptcy, your addiction, your family's rejection, altar dust, where the presence of God wants to make his home. But here's the catch, and listen close, because this will determine whether you leave here the same or leave here changed. You have to bring it. You have to place it on the altar. You have to stop hiding what God wants to heal. For 60 years, Margaret's pain was just pain. The moment she surrendered it, it became power. I'm going to ask you to do something right now that might feel impossible. But impossible is where miracles live. Write one word in the comments. Just one word representing what you're placing on God's altar today. Shame, grief, delay, betrayal, fear, loneliness. Whatever it is, name it. Don't overthink it. Your first instinct is usually God's instruction. That word isn't just a comment, it's a covenant. It's you telling heaven, I'm done carrying what Christ already carried. I'm done hiding what God wants to heal. I'm ready to let my pain become my platform. Because, chosen one, on the other side of your surrender is a calling so powerful, so precisely designed for your unique scars, that companies won't be rejecting you, they'll be recruiting you. Not for what you can do, but for who you've become. But first, you have to bring God what you've never brought anyone. Are you ready to stop running from your assignment and start running toward it? Chosen one, as we come to the end of this sacred conversation, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, that restless ache in your chest was never a sign of failure. It was God's GPS recalibrating your direction. Every rejection, every closed door, every moment you felt like you didn't belong was heaven protecting you from settling for less than your divine assignment. Second, your pain is not your disqualification, it's your ordination. The very experiences that made you feel unworthy are the exact qualifications God needs for the work He's prepared for you. Your scars are not shameful marks, they're sacred seals of authenticity that will give your voice authority in rooms full of people who need to hear that survival is possible. And third, the job you've been chasing was never meant to define you. You were called to something higher, to be a solution to problems others can't even see yet, to carry light into spaces that have been dark too long, to build bridges where others only see walls. But here's what I need you to understand. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, in this very moment, there are thousands of chosen ones watching this message, feeling the same holy restlessness, carrying the same divine discontent. You are part of a remnant, a spiritual family that spans continents and generations. God hasn't forgotten you. He hasn't given up on you. Even when you gave up on yourself, He kept working. While you were applying for jobs that weren't meant for you, He was preparing opportunities that were. While you were doubting your worth, He was designing your platform. While you were questioning your purpose, He was positioning your breakthrough. And this community, this beautiful family of believers who found their way to this message, tonight we're here for you. We see you, we believe in you, and we're ready to pray with you, walk with you, and remind you of who you are when the world tries to convince you otherwise. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to stop asking God to bless your plan and start asking Him to reveal His plan? Are you ready to surrender the safety of the known for the adventure of the called? Before you leave this sacred space, I want to invite you to do 3 things. First, share this message with someone who needs to hear that their season of wandering is about to become their season of wonder. There's someone in your circle who's been dying in a cubicle, thinking there's no way out. Be their divine messenger. Second, leave a comment below and tell us what God stirred in your spirit tonight. Share your breakthrough, your prayer request, or simply say, I'm ready. This community is here to celebrate with you and pray for you. You don't have to carry this revelation alone. And third, if this message found you at exactly the right time, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Not for me, but for your future self. Because God is going to use these messages to guide you through what's coming, and you don't want to miss what heaven is saying in the seasons ahead. Thank you for staying until the very end. Thank you for opening your heart to what might have been uncomfortable truths. Thank you for being part of this spiritual family that's scattered across the globe, but united in purpose. Now, let me pray over you with the authority that comes from someone who's walked this path and seen God's faithfulness in the fire. Father God, I place my hand on the shoulder of every chosen one hearing this prayer. Right now, in living rooms and bedrooms, in cars and coffee shops, your children are surrendering dreams that were too small and embracing callings that are eternal. Lord, I pray that you would break every chain of fear that's held them captive to jobs that never satisfied their souls. Shatter every lie that whispered they weren't qualified, weren't ready, weren't chosen. God, I pray for divine connections to find them this week. Open doors that no man can shut. Bring opportunities that bypass human gatekeepers and flow directly from your throne room to their reality. Give them the courage to walk away from what's familiar and walk toward what's faithful to their calling. For those carrying pain tonight, transform their wounds into wells of wisdom. Let their struggles become the very qualifications that make them unstoppable in their assignment. For those feeling alone, surround them with your presence so powerfully that they know they are seen, known, and deeply loved. Lord, bless their finances as they transition from employee mindset to assignment mindset. Provide for them abundantly as they step out in faith. Give them supernatural favor with the right people at the right time. And most importantly, Father, give them unshakable peace that reminds them they are walking in your perfect will. I declare over every chosen one watching this, your wilderness season is ending, your promised land is calling, and the God who began this good work in you will be faithful to complete it. In the mighty name of Jesus, the one who left his throne to show us that the called life is possible. Amen. You are loved. You are chosen. You are not alone. Until we meet again, walk boldly in the authority of your calling. The world is waiting for what only you can bring.